to the Northwest Community Garden, located at the corner of Park and Baxter Streets. The Rutland Department of Parks and Rec administers 2 such gardens, which are open to members of the community to plant and grow their own produce. Over the next few months, we will feature the progress of this garden, from soil preparation, seeding, pruning, and the final harvest. Our garden guide is Nik Santoro. Here we are in the Northwest Community Garden. I'm your host, Gale Finlayson, and with me is Nik Santoro, our master gardener. This is our 3rd furrow, as I call it, and things look like they've been coming along. Nick, what have you been up to, and what are we going to see today?
Well, a lot of the community gardeners have been planting anything from cilantro, tomatoes, there's some rosemary, and I'm not sure what that is there. And then there's beans over that away, and there are still a few plots that will be planted in. So far, I think there are 3 empty plots, and if they stay empty, I think this year I'll go with the spaghetti squash for everybody.
So this will be something that you are planting, but planning to offer to people in the community.
Yeah, everything in this garden here and what'll go back there, and some of these other plots will be shared with passers-by and whoever wants fresh vegetables.
What's the situation of our water container?
Well, I've been a busy beaver. And I've been loading it up every day. And all the gardeners who come by, I suggest that bringing water would be helpful, and people seem to be bringing water to water their plants.
Now, is there any one method of planting, let's say, seeds that's better than others? Because I've been told different methods that different people swear by, and I'm confused. Do you need string? Do you need to dig a trough or build a little hill?
Well, I guess it depends what you're going to put in the ground, but for the most part, like for instance a tomato, you want to make a little trough around it to collect the water when you water it. And it's probably best with many plants. We don't have any potatoes growing, but they grow good in mounds. Mostly I turn my soil over with a shovel, then I use the fork and get it finer, and then I'll maybe use a potato fork, the fork with 4 prongs, and then I will make little furrows, or like there were a bunch of tomato seedlings from last season in the corner there, and I spread them out along here, and I'd just put my index finger in the soil and then put a seedling, and I'm just getting them started, and we have another batch in that corner, and I hope to have tons and tons of tomatoes this season. And
do you mean that those little tomato seedlings survived the winter?
Yeah, they were tomatoes last year. They're going to be tomatoes again this year.
Can you reuse seeds or save them from 1 year or 2 years to the next?
Oh, yeah. That's all those seedlings in the pot are from spaghetti squash that we grew here last year. And presumably they'll grow into spaghetti squash unless they decide to become another species. But we're going to have a lot of spaghetti squash this year.
Well, that'll be fun. Now, are you up for a challenge, and are you willing to plant something that you've never planted before?
I guess we can do that. What do we have?
Well, I have some seeds saved from last year, a kind of a bean plant called dragon's tongue. I had never heard of it myself, but I discovered it in Maine, and I thought it would be fun to try to grow them.
I think we ought to do that. Now, have we decided whether they're pole beans or bush beans?
I don't
We don't
remember.
know. So why don't we plant them so that we'll figure they'll be bush beans, and if they turn out to be climbers, we'll put some sticks in the ground and maybe make some design for them to climb up on.
They are very interesting to look at, and they almost look like they may be the hybrid children of yellow beans and green beans.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing what we get.
And seeing how they taste.
I mean, this year seems like Lisa, a new gardener here, is gonna try to grow cucumbers up on her poles over here. And we're gonna grow beans either here or back there on poles. And so, like I might have mentioned another time, Dennis and Carol, who have Radical Roots Farm, they grow their tomatoes 15 feet high off of strings. And I think they do that with their cucumbers too. And the vegetation just keeps growing if you design it so that what nature's provided those particular plants, they can do it.
Well, is anybody planting lettuce?
I haven't seen any lettuce. We can put some in if you have some of those seeds.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. I was just thinking if we could, at the end of the summer, have a complete garden salad.
Yeah, but the whole deal is you have to keep plucking these things, otherwise they go to seed. And once they go to seed, then the plants get a little bitter. And so with, like for instance, these cilantros, in no time they'll start getting very pretty little white flowers, and you want to clip them off and eat them. And then, you know, it'll just keep going. But you want to prevent the plants from going to seed, and they want to do that fast. Of course, I'm always watering these plants. Water, water, water. And a day like today, it's pretty warm and it's been dry lately, so, you know, the plants need to be attended to, simple as that. Especially cilantro.
Okay, well, are you ready to get your hands dirty and start digging and really putting the seeds in?
Well, I suppose I've been doing a bunch of that. Okay, I turned over some of this soil today. I'm gonna turn over this corner, and I'm gonna plant these famous spaghetti squash seedlings. And I think besides these, I have some other squash seedlings in a pot, and we're going to have a lot of squash, which is a good thing. So I'm turning it over a bit with the shovel, and then I'll take this fork tool and I'll loosen it up a bit more.
Are these tools permanently available on site for gardening?
Yep, these tools stay here. I kept them at my house this winter to keep them out of the weather, but they're mostly in the weather. So for my purposes, this is adequate. The other people might do it finer. Anyhow, I'm going to take this nice little squash and put it right there. I'm gonna, since we don't really have enough space here to grow crawling plants, I'm gonna put them close, and I'll depending upon how the garden gets planted, I'll transplant them at some point. Anyhow, here's another beauty, and we'll put this sweetheart right here. Okay, and let's get another one. Oh, you did it. Thank you. Woohoo! So we're gonna give these squash a nice little watering. Ideally, the best time to plant is in the morning, early, or in the evening. This is not ideal, but these are hardy plants, and they're just kind of saying it's okay. All right, so I'm gonna loosen up the soil. I've already done it earlier. And what we have here is maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred tomato plants from seeds from last season. And I just threw the decomposing tomatoes in this corner. So we're gonna have cherry tomatoes and beefsteaks, and I don't know, I can't identify one tomato from another. And that's what I did over here. All along here are little tomato seedlings that were clumped in this corner. So I think I already said this. We'll get them going, and then as I know which plots are empty and where there's room, I'll just transplant them, and everybody can have lots of tomatoes in about, what's it? I think it's 90 days for a tomato, isn't it? I'm not positive, but that sounds right. So I'm gonna loosen this up a wee bit, and then I'm going to get down low and start pulling apart a few of those seedlings and get them in the ground, and in about a week or a little more they'll be happy tomatoes. They're already happy, but they're only a little happy. They'll be really happy when they have a lot of space.
Is that a leek or an onion left over from last year?
That's an onion from last year, right here.
Survived all winter.
Survived all winter, and here's is that a maple? I don't know if that is a maple or not, but it could be a tree under different circumstances. Now it's just a weed. All right, so that's the best part of this show, is when I get humorous. Now, this is my favorite digging tool. It's a fairly long screwdriver, and now it has kind of a point from all my digging. And I'm just gonna loosen this soil so that the seedlings will take, and I'm gonna pluck up a few seedlings and I'll show them to you. These are all gonna produce a lot of tomatoes. So we have all the ingredients in this garden now, except onions, for a great salsa. I planted tomatillos. Tomatillos look like that, and they're a really incredible tasting vegetable. And then the cilantro with the tomatillos make are two important ingredients in my opinion, besides the regular onions and garlic. All right, so I'm gonna, in this case, I'm spacing these about 1.5 inches apart. I'm just trying to give them a little room to grow, as we got a little bug here. I forget what this is not a centipede. Here we go. So we ought to get those beans of yours in the garden somewhere. I've done a few tomatoes. I'm gonna wet the roots for the moment because I'm not planting them right away. And it's pretty hot now, so again, this isn't the best time, but it'll still work as long as I keep those tomatoes watered. Okay, beans. Beans. Shall we make no, we ought to plant them as bush beans. And then, oh, look at that. Dragon's tongue. Dragon's tongue. Look at those dragon tongues in there. Woohoo! Must be a lot of dragons. We're going to have dragons in northwest Rutland. I'm going to plant these over here for now. And we may have to
Build the teepee?
We may have to transplant them, but for the time being I'll just make a little row here. I got this here is Swiss chard, and then for the moment now there is a permaculture way of growing where one vegetable serves the other vegetable and the water, but I'm not that sophisticated. Oh, so let's just make a row here, and I know that I shouldn't be putting as many beans as I'm going to put in, but they will be growing. Do you need any of these back?
No, that's all right. You can use them all.
So we'll just put a ton of seeds in here. So I'm just going to pluck them on down here for the moment.
How deep should beans?
I just put them about 1 inch below. I'm not a horticulturalist or a farmer, I'm a flatlander, and there's no way around it.
How far apart should the beans be planted? They look pretty close.
Oh, they're awfully close. Probably all of these should be in this whole plot here. But we just don't have room, and when they do germinate, we'll figure out some way to put them together. So maybe we can just that's way too many, but what are you going to do? Since we have such a surplus of everything, we're going to use it. Okay, I'm going to use my Microlabeling 2018 technique because I had lots of straws from my grandson's drinking activities. Okay, dragon beans. And we're just gonna put that in by that row so we know when they start coming up that they have long tongues and they have fiery
Maybe
breath.
when we see little plumes of smoke coming up, we'll know they're near.
That's right. And I'm just gonna put that here for the moment. Oh. And then I'm gonna cover up these dragons and pour some water on them. And while they sleep the next few days, they will turn into something different than they are now, that's for sure. Okay, so we have our new watering can, a donation from our producer, Gale. Okay, we're gonna put a lot of water on these dragon beans. Okay, I'll push a couple down with my finger, and pretty soon we're gonna have beans. Beans and squash. Okay, that's Gale's dragon beans are in the ground now.
All right.
And so we did some seedlings. We did the spaghetti squash seedlings and some of these tomatoes, and then we put some beans over here, which may only have a transitory life in that particular spot, but you know, being as we're community gardeners and we're not full-time real farmers, we do the best we can.
Say, Nick, what's our update on those marble benches?
This past week, Tyler and Conrad from the rec department further dug out the holes and laid the gravel for the marble benches. So they'll be here soon, and nice place to take a rest.
Please join us next time when Nick will demonstrate some weeding techniques. Volunteers always welcome. And we'll check on the seedlings and see if the dragon's tongue beans are beginning to shoot some fire. Hope to see you then.
And
green thumbs forever.
okay, green thumbs forever.